Hey, hello out there, digital makers. Welcome back to Digital Making at Home. This week's episode is an energetic one. If you haven't already, say hi in the chat and let us know where in the world you are. I'm Mr. C, and I'm coming to you live from Cambridge in the UK. And back with us once again is the ever breezy Christina. Hey, Christina.
Hi everyone. I'm joining from Nebraska in the USA, and thank you to everyone joining us once again for another great episode of Digital Making at Home. Great to see you, Mr. C.
Thanks, Christina. You too.
Yeah, and we already have some folks in the chat early today. Larry in Canada, Foxy, Anna in Nigeria, Andrew in Maryland with us on YouTube. Great to see you getting involved. Welcome. It's awesome to hear from you all. Today is all about staying active. We've got Ben Hall as our special guest today. He works with us at the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and we're going to be doing some coding on the microbit to make a step counter.
Amazing. And if you don't have a microbit at home, don't worry. You'll be able to code along on the emulator online, but more on that later. I've just seen Ali shouting it to us from Iraq. How's it going, Ali and Ronnie as well? Got some old people coming back. It's really nice to see the community.
Oh yeah, Shafiq from Tunisia. Great to see you again. Right. Awesome. So Eddie's Tech in the UK. Oh, so many familiar faces popping back in.
Great, right? It's really cool. For those of you who are with us for the first time this week, welcome. I mean, Digital Making at Home is all about getting young people to step up and join the ranks of people changing the world by creating things with technology. Every Wednesday, we chat with incredible inventors, makers from all around the world, and we create cool things together and see amazing digital projects from young people like you worldwide. And we love having all of you here with us each week making cool stuff. We're broadcasting live every episode to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And your comments are coming through to us live on those platforms. We love hearing from all of you every week on the show. So do jump in, ask us questions, give us your opinion, say hi, whatever.
Absolutely. We get all your messages and love your input. If you haven't been shouted out yet, don't give up. Keep asking good questions and sharing your stories with us in the chat. Also, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. It really helps us out. Or head to rpf.io/sub right over there to get our content fresh off the press.
Absolutely, because subscribing to our channel means joining a global community of young digital makers and educators and furthers the Raspberry Pi Foundation's global mission to change the world with digital making. So come and be part of our team.
Yes, we've almost hit 3,000 subscribers now, which is awesome. Folks, I know we can get to 10,000. Make sure you're subscribed and let us know how you think we should celebrate 10,000 subscribers. Remember, we brought on Cassie for 1,000. Who knows what we can do with 10,000? Shout out to Derek, Corinna, and Terry, some of our most recent subscribers. Thanks for joining the Raspberry Pi team. I'm going to jump in and say hi. We're seeing folks coming in from Athens, Greece, Peter on YouTube, Supreet on Twitch, Ahmed in Cairo on Facebook. Hello, Peter. I hope I'm saying it correctly. South Africa is setting up an octopi right now. That's amazing. Amazing. I think Andre just said they recently found this channel and I'm loving these lives. Huge hug from Portugal.
Portugal, amazing.
We just got a hug from Portugal. Thank you, Andre. I appreciate it so much. All right, so with the theme of staying active, I actually asked our director, Matt, to pop in and share about a project that he's been working on, which brings together his love of running and digital making. Now, Matt is usually running around behind the scenes of the stream each week, making sure everything goes smoothly, but I've convinced him to come on the camera. So let's bring him on and talk about his project. Matt, are you there?
Hi, good to be on the show.
Yes. I know you're not usually up here, right? You're usually behind. Yeah, it's great to see you.
It's been a while since I've been on camera, but I've been watching all the shows and loving it, having fun behind the scenes and seeing everybody chat. It's fun, and I love jumping on camera too now and then.
Yeah, thanks so much. I know, especially I know you used to do this all the time as a YouTuber for sure. So we've learned a lot from you. Yeah. I want to hear about your project that you're working on. I mentioned it's your love of running and digital making. Tell us more.
Yeah, so I'm going to add it to the stream now. I've got a screen share set up here. So I love running. I set a goal a little while ago that I wanted to run in all US states and territories and as many countries as I possibly can. And so when it's great. And so it keeps me running when I'm traveling and stuff. And so what I decided to do was I made a Python-based web application which reads data from Strava. Now, Strava is a platform where runners and cyclists and swimmers upload all their data about all their workouts and give each other kudos for all their work and everything. And it has an API, which is how you can connect to it and get data about, what you do. So I made this web app is what you're seeing here that pulls all the data from Strava. When I go for a new run, it checks what state was I in. It uses the Google Maps API, which is getting some data about, you take a point from a run and you say, well, what state is this in? You can ask Google Maps what state it's in or what country it's in. And then so this website I made just tracks basically all the states and all the countries. And then the cool thing is this is my patch collection. For every state I run in, I get a patch. And for every country I run in, I get a patch. So, and this is like what motivates me, right? This is like, if I'm traveling to a new state, I'm absolutely going to go for a run because I want that patch. That might be my only opportunity to get a patch. So it's super motivating and it's fun. And then also for me, the opportunity to have a project to code on and to improve and to play around with
constantly.
Yeah, it's nice to have that.
That's really neat because when I go to a new state or country, the opposite of what I'm doing is planning a run. So I think it's what's the word? Inspiring, right? You get that incentive, which is really great. If you're just joining us, Matt is showing us a project that he's been working on. It's a digital making project where he earns patches for his runs. And Matt, scroll back up to the states and the countries. If you see your state or country, let us know. Let us know if Matt's done a run in your state or country.
And is that Norway, Matt?
Yes, I've run in Norway. I went to Oslo. Actually, I was in the UK visiting my Raspberry Pi colleagues, and then I hopped on a flight on the weekend, went over to Oslo just to go for a run. Well, and to see Oslo for the first time, and then got that country done there. So yeah,
amazing.
Norway's got a beautiful flag. I love the Norwegian flag. There you go.
Wow,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really great. Oh, I'm just really impressed with how you took digital making and made it something that actually brings you outside, right? And we know technology is used a lot outside, but I think it's something that a lot of folks, if you're new to it, they think it's a lot of indoor making, a lot of on the computer. And you've literally made something that encourages you to go outside regularly, which is really cool.
And generally speaking, making can intersect with other interests you have. Like in this case, I just love fitness. I love staying active. And so I found a way to combine this sort of this desire to code and create things with the other interest I have.
That's amazing. Did you know much about sort of getting into the Strava API and doing that sort of coding before you started the project, or did you teach yourself a lot along the way?
Before I started, I didn't know anything about the Strava API, but I knew about APIs generally. I know generally, you make a request, you have to build out the request, you have to authorize yourself so that you say, yes, I'm allowed to have this data. And then you get a response, and the response is, the documentation online tells you what kind of response to expect. And so then I was able to kind of get some sample data out and then see if I could use Python to sort of interpret that data and make sure that what I was seeing in the documentation was actually what I was getting back from the Strava website. And so, and actually the documentation was really, really good, and that helped a lot. I still ran into some trouble because it's not everything is straightforward sometimes. So it took me some trial and error to finally get it to where it is now.
Thanks for admitting that. I think it's so important to admit that, right? When folks see it, knowing that this is not how it starts. So much of digital making is trial and error, and that's such an important thing to remember. And speaking of coding, we've got some coding to do. So we are going to send you back, Matt, so you can help us bring Ben on. Yeah. So thanks so much for joining, Matt. Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I hope he earns a new patch soon. Fingers crossed. I could ask questions about that project all day, but we've got some coding to do. So I'm definitely really excited. And I saw some folks having some questions. I saw Aisha said that they need a book or a website about Python. So if you have suggestions for Aisha, please put them in the chat. That was on Facebook. Aisha, you can also check out raspberrypi.org. We have projects that are Python projects. Also, rpf.io/courses. We have a Python course. So if you were just inspired by Matt's Python project, definitely check those out. So shall we bring Ben on and do some coding?
That would be amazing. Yeah, let's see him. Ben, are you there?
Ben, are you there?
Hey.
How's it going?
Good, thanks.
Should we jump straight in, mate? I mean, we don't have a lot of time. We've had a chat with Matt. And so could you tell for people at home what it is that you do for the Raspberry Pi Foundation?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm a learning manager, and that means I make loads of stuff for teachers and for students to use in the classroom. So it's like writing loads of lesson plans and developing online courses for teachers. So that's the kind of thing I do.
Awesome. And so you work on a project called Teach Computing, yeah?
Yeah, that's
can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so that started a couple of years ago. So it's a government project in here in England, and it's basically designed to increase participation in computing for students. So we get more computer scientists, more people going into computing jobs, and it was set up to promote computing to children in England initially. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Before that, I was a teacher, so that's where I've got my sort of experience in computing education from.
Amazing, that's cool. And it's totally free, yeah? Teach Computing, everything that you guys is completely free. That's
cool. All our resources are freely available. You can download them for free. They're on the really open license as well, so you can so teachers can adapt them for their setting. So yeah, all completely free.
Awesome.
I love that. Check out the website, folks, especially teachers. Check that out and definitely engage with that curriculum. It's awesome. And Matt, or excuse me, not Ben, we're Ben. I'm so excited. Ben, I'm very excited you're here. And I wanted to ask you, like, as a maker, as someone, I know you've been creating these materials. We're going to talk about the microbit. What is something you've made recently?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I've been playing around with recently. First one is, hopefully you can see this.
Oh, great.
Can you see it? Oh, there we are. So cool. This is a Pico, just on the end. I think you looked at a Pico a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's just running a kind of traffic light sequence emulator. So there's a button and a buzzer as well, which I won't do now because it makes a huge noise. So that's a project that I made and coded. Another one, which is quite nice, this is one I soldered together. So if you can see that, this is like a yes-no decider. So if I press the button, you can see the light, I've got it upside down, lights on the bottom, on the top now flashing, and it'll tell me whether the decision I should make is yes or no. So I've decided yes, that's right. Good job.
That's great. For folks who don't know what soldering is, could you explain what that is?
Yeah, so these projects like this, it's probably the best one to use. So it's got loads of little resistors and little chips on it, and when you get the project in its unmade form, it's just a board with loads of little parts. And you just plug the parts into the board, and then using a soldering iron, which is like a little sort of pen-shaped thing which gets really hot, you just solder a little piece of metal on the connections, and it just makes the connections between all the different parts. So it's really good fun.
Yeah, and that becomes like a permanent project, right? Because you can't unsolder.
Well, you can actually.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can, because I'll show you on here. So you can see that some of the joints are really close together on here. These are like on this. This is a header. Where all the pins are really close together. So it's a little bit out of focus. I'll bring it out a bit. There we go. So it's really, really easy. If you put a little bit too much solder on, you can bridge in between two connections. And if that happens, you just need to heat up the solder again. And Mr. Seal knows, got a camera what it's called. You get this little device where you just pop it off.
Oh yeah, the solder sucker. And you can wick it well. You can wick it out like with a bit of soldering wick. Yeah, we've got a reflow oven in the office. I'm pretty sure we should get that sorted out. We can do some cool stuff with that, I think. Yeah. But yeah, one of the things with soldering is you have to kind of be prepared to make mistakes because all the bits are really tiny. So you just got to go with it.
Oh, definitely. I'll have to try. I tried it one time. Oh gosh, maybe 2 years ago when we were in the office. Matt was on and taught us how to do some soldering. But hopefully, when we're all back in the office again, we can do that together. Ben, we are going to be using the microbit with you today. Can you tell us a little bit? What is a microbit?
Yeah, sure. So this is a microbit. So you can see it's a tiny little. It's basically a tiny little computer. Again, I've got it upside down. So about sort of half the size of a credit card. And it's basically just got a few inputs on it. So there's buttons on the front there, 2 buttons, and there's a button on the back. And you can see there's a grid of 5x5 little kind of gold things there. These are actually tiny little LEDs. So this effectively is the screen. So there's a screen on there as well. So with the microbit, you can plug it into a computer, and anything you code in an interface called MakeCode, which we'll see in a minute, you can download onto microbit, and you can do loads of cool little projects on it. So it's just a really tiny, small, cheap computer. So in England, they cost about £15 to buy the sort of starter kit. So you get the microbit, you get a battery pack with it as well, and you get a connection, a lead connected to your computer. So really sort of low cost, entry level way of getting into physical computing.
Yeah, I love the microbit. It's such a cool little device. And they've got a new version out, have they not? There's like a newer version than the one that, like, I've got my one here, and this is the old one, isn't it?
Yeah, mine is too. Yeah. So this is the first version of the microbit, which I think is the same as yours. So the new one, I think, has the main difference is it's got some more sensors on it, and I think it's got it can do sound as well, which this one can't. I think that's the main difference.
Yeah, I saw that when I was playing around with it, and we just put in the chat. But how many of you have played with a microbit or made something cool? Share in the chat with us. Let us know. I was able to find mine. Actually, I had to move recently, so I was digging for it when I heard that you were coming on, Ben. So I'm really excited that I found it. We can do some coding now. If you don't have one, like Mr. C mentioned, we'll show you the website you can use, and you can still code along with us even if you don't have a microbit at home.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just makecode.microbit.org, right, isn't it, Ben? You can go there and you can like go straight in, and it's all blockly. It's much like Scratch. So, like those of you who have used Scratch before, you'll see that using MakeCode is very, very similar. It's quite easy to work with as well. So, what are we going to make today, Ben?
So what we're going to do is, it's actually, I was thinking about it when Matt was talking earlier on. So with Strava, you can track where you run, but I don't think Strava tracks a number of steps. So what you can do with a microbit is, because it can sense motion, we can make a really basic little step counter with it. So the project I'm going to show you kind of layers up. So we'll start with a really basic version of a step counter, and then we'll add a couple of extra features. And it's just using, there's something called on the back. There's one of the sensors. Let me just find out which one it is. There it is. I'll just put my finger next to it. It's so small you won't be able to see which one it is. But it's called an accelerometer. And basically, lots of devices have accelerometers. So mobile phones, things like Fitbits, they have accelerometers. So any device which needs to sense some kind of movement will have an accelerometer in it. And that's the sensor we're using on the microbit today.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Crack on.
Okay,
right.
I'll share my screen.
Yes.
1 second.
I love everyone coming in and sharing their screens. This is great. I don't have to share anything. I just get to code.
Yeah, I've made some cool things with the microbit before. Popped together a couple of different games. Oh, cool. Here we go.
Okay, we're on there?
Yes. And also just have to say hello to Neil in Hawaii on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us, Neil. And Ali just mentioned that I'm going to be finishing my course on Future Learn to move from Scratch to Python. Yes, Ali, that's great.
Ali, that's
As
cool.
I mentioned, those courses are super helpful getting started with Scratch. If you've been working on Scratch, want to move to Python, if you want to get started with Python, lots of great courses there. All right, let's jump in.
Okay, so this is the microbit website. So this is makecode.microbit.org. And as you can see here, you can start your own project. There's also some really great tutorials down here, which you can do as well. So if you don't want to start your own project from scratch, you can have a look at that as well. So I'm going to start a new project today. I'm going to call it Step Counter.
All right. I'm calling mine Steps with Ben.
Nice. I went for the standard pedometer.
There we go. So when you start a new project, you'll be given 2 blocks to start with. So you've got the on start block and the forever block in there. And in a sec, on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see the emulator load up. There we are. So what the emulator does is it means you can basically test your program on an on-screen microbit. So this does everything that an actual microbit does, but you can, but it does it on the screen instead of on the actual device. And that means that as you build up your program, you can keep on testing it on the microbit without having to continually download it to your device. So we will download the project, or I will download the project to the microbit once we've finished coding it. But as we go along, I'm just going to test it on the emulator here. So if you haven't got a microbit, you can do the same thing.
If you have a microbit, make sure you've got it plugged in and go ahead and plug it into your computer.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so we'll get started. So the first thing we need to do when we're coding a step counter is we need to set up something called a variable for step. So a variable is just somewhere where we can store a value. So we need to be able to store the value for steps. So I'm going to make a new variable, and I'm going to call it step. It's important you name your variables right, because when you want to use them later on, if you haven't named it properly, you're not going to know what it is. So that's the top tip. So the first thing we're going to do is going to use the set step block to start. So when we start the program, we want it to start on 0 each time. So that means we always start from 0 steps. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a if-then block. And we want to pick up if the microbit is moving. So the way we can do that is we can use an input. And the input we're going to use is, just down there at the bottom, if shake gesture. So I'm just going to drop that in so you can see it's a bit of a clue about the shape of the block where it can go. So it can just drop in there. So we've now got if shake gesture, then. And what we want to do is we want to increase the number of steps each time the shake gesture is detected. So back to my variables, and I'm going to change the step by 1. So at the most basic level, what we've done there is made a step counter. So if I shake the microbit, each time I shake it by clicking on the shake on the emulator, it's counting another step. That's great, but we want to see some way of seeing how many steps we've done. So we haven't got any output at the moment, but it is counting the steps. We just can't see it. So the next thing we need to do is we need, from the basic blocks, we're going to use a show number block. Just drop it in under there. And the number I want to see is the variable, so the value we've stored, which is step. So I'm just going to drop step in there. And now, when we shake the microbit, you should see, let's stop it and start it again. There we go, so it goes to 0. So each time I shake it, you'll see the numbers increasing. Now that's fine, but if I press it loads of times, you'll see it just keeps on going up now. And particularly when you get past 9 on the microbit, it has to scroll across to display the value. So it's always going to be lagging behind a bit. So what we need to do is, instead of showing the number step each time, it's going to be better if we show the number just like when we want to see it. So we're going to use another if-then block for that. So I'm just going to bring that one down there. And we're going to say if a button is pressed, so an input. So I'm going to say if button B is pressed, I'm going to use. Okay, then I want it to show the number step. Okay, so let's just stop and start that again. So now, oops. So there we go. So shake the microbit again. So just like the start, we're now changing the value step, but we can't see it. But now if I press button B on the emulator, we should get a value coming back. Let's try that again. Sorry, that wasn't running. Do that again. Right, now press the button B. There we go. So we've now got a value. So it's given me a value of 48. Now you might think we didn't do 48 movements there, and you'd be right. We'll come back to that later on. Okay, but don't worry about that at the moment. So now we've got a step counter, which is sensing and showing the value when we want to see it. But we can go further than that. So wouldn't it be great if our step counter could tell us if we're doing really well or not, if we could set ourselves some targets? So to do that, I'm going to go back to my logic blocks, and I'm going to use an if-then-else block. Okay, I'm just going to pull that one out of there. We'll use that in a minute. And I'm going to say if, and we need another logic block in here. We need a comparison block. So pop that in there. So I'm going to say if step, so if the value step is, oh, it always does that.
Ooh, which comparison block did I need?
So you can, any of them are okay actually, but greater than or less than is fine. If you just drop the middle.
Oh, because you can drop the, and change it. And I think I see that Marion Ponpon on Twitch and then Foxy Sanchez both haven't used Microbit yet. So this is their first time, which is really exciting. And I also see Dylan saying hi. Hi, Dylan. Thanks for joining us today. I don't know if you have a Microbit, but if not, you can be coding with us on the simulator that we're doing. So yeah, I wanted to say hi to some folks, Ben. Keep going, please. How you actually, Mr. C, how's it going for you? Are you doing good?
Not too bad. I couldn't find the greater than block. I lost it, and now I've found it now though, and okay. I've just popped it in there.
Yeah, so it's in the logic blocks. Yeah. Any of those comparison blocks, you'll be able to use that. So one thing I need to do is just take my if-then block out, and I'm just going to pop it inside the if button B pressed, because we only want to do this when the button is pressed. Okay, and pull that back in under there. So what we want to say then, so we've now got the comparison block, which says if step is less than 50, actually I'm going to change that to greater than, we'll do greater than. If step is greater than 50, we want to show the number step, but we also want to put a little message on the screen. So I'm going to show a string of text.
I was hoping we'd do that.
Yeah, so we'll say, great. If the number is if the number of step is, if the value of step is greater than 50, we're going to see great, say great. If it's not greater than 50, so else, we can just duplicate this block in here. So we need that one again. We're still going to show the number of step, and I'll duplicate that one as well. And we'll put a motivational message in here, something like keep going. Okay, so now we've got, so the counter is, the step counter is not only just counting the steps, it's now going to give some message depending on how many steps have been completed. So we can test that now on the emulator. So click on shake a few times. Press button B. So we've got a value of 119. So it should say great. There we go.
I love it.
And
Think of all the fun things I can have mine say.
Absolutely. You can say all sorts of things on it. So instead of, so I'm not going to shake it this time. So I've stopped it and started it again. And we should hopefully get the message saying keep it up. So just very quickly, it said 0 at the beginning. You might have missed that. So no steps counted. So keep going is the message there. So we've kind of developed the project a bit further. Now, one thing we can do to develop it even further is we can replace the is shake gesture for a block which is slightly more accurate or more sort of controllable. So from the input, we can use the acceleration block here. Okay, so, and we need another comparator from there.
And just to remind folks, if you're just joining us, you can go to, what is it, makecode.microbit.org, and you don't have to have a microbit. So I saw Dylan, you said you don't have one. That's okay. You can go to makecode.microbit.org, and you can still do this project and play around with the microbit, which is great. You'll have a simulator just like what you see on Ben's screen right now. I saw Ali just suggested he could put a happy face on his if you meet a certain number of steps. Exactly. Yeah, I love that idea, Ali.
You can do that. So on the basic blocks, you can put any combination of LEDs you want. I can't do that until I've got it in a block. But basically, you can just select the LEDs you want, so you can draw little pictures on the screen. So you can do that. So you do that instead of the show string, you do show LEDs.
Nice.
So what's a sensible value to set in there as the acceleration then, Ben? Like, because
so
greater than 0, if you're just moving whatsoever, right, it's gonna start.
Yeah, that's not high enough. You need to set it. I've sort of had a play around with it, and around about 300 seems to be quite a good value. But the only way to kind of really test it is to just put it on the microbit and try it for yourself. But around about 300 seems to be reasonably accurate. So we can test that. So I'm going to shake it. Oops, not started it again. There we go. So there we go. Shake. And we've got a value of 29 there. So yeah, it's just a little bit more accurate than the shake gesture, which you can't change that at all. It's just sort of predefined. But with the acceleration block, you can have a little play around with it. Okay, so we've got a project there, which is a nice little step counter project. So the next thing we need to do is actually flash it onto the microbit. So the way the microbit works is each time you put a program on, it'll overwrite the previous program on there, so you can have one program on at a time. So making sure that your lead is connected to your computer, which mine is. I'm just going to plug the lead into the top of the microbit, and you'll see the light on the back will start just blinking a little bit, just as it makes a connection. So it's now made a connection there with my computer. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to click on the download button, and you need to look really carefully at the screen because again you'll see it blink. So as I click on download, it's just working, and it will blink in a sec. There it goes. Just blinks very briefly. There we go. And download complete. So that project is now on my microbit. So now if I shake my microbit, this is the moment of truth. If I press button B, button B, hopefully upside down. There we go. So you can see it's returning a value.
Yeah, amazing.
A message. Oh, it's working. There we go.
Yay!
That's awesome.
Oh, that's great. Oh, congrats, Ben. It's always the hardest part when you do some coding live.
I know. That's tense. You know it's going to work. You know it's going to work. You've got to be confident. Okay, so I've got one more thing I can show you. So I'm just going to unplug it from the computer.
I know, I got mine too.
Hey, it's working. Brilliant.
Mine's telling me I've only
Yay.
got 9,974 more steps to go today to hit my
Perfect. Well,
Exactly right.
So, just going to show you how you could then use this sort of as an actual step counter outside. So, instead of connecting to the computer, I'm now going to connect up my battery pack, which will just click in. You might hear a little click as it goes in. Okay, and I've got just an old hairband here, so I'm just going to connect. I'm just going to put the hairband across the microbit, which you'll see in a sec. Put it on the wrist.
Oh, can you lift it up, Ben? We can't see.
Yeah, well done. Just there we go.
Oh, cool.
You got that? Yeah. So the battery pack is connected, and now again, if I shake it to emulate walking, and if I press button B now, make sure I press the right one. There you go. So it's now on my wrist as a kind of step counter.
Yes. That's great. And I know, like, I've talked to like colleagues in the UK. I know folks have been like, there've been step competitions in households. Our CEO, Philip Colligan, has been competing with his kids, and whoever wins for the week gets to buy dinner, or not buy dinner. I take that back. Gets to choose dinner. I think Philip's going to buy dinner.
That's not.
But I think it's such a good way to like get active and move around. I remember one time my mom and I, when we first got step counters on our like wrists, like gosh, years ago, where we just kept walking up and down a hotel hallway. Is it working, Mr. C?
Yeah, totally. I just like the count keeps going up. See.
Nice. I don't have an external battery, so mine's still on my computer, but I'll just walk here and get it to
just shake it. Just shake it around. Yeah, like that. It's cheating.
Who can get it to? Let's see who can get the most steps by the end of the stream.
We're
just gonna keep going.
You could cheat. You could cheat and change the acceleration values to really low, and then your steps will go really quickly.
Like 12 million, and then just reset the program. Yeah, nice. That's the programmer thinking right there. Like, why would I shape the thing? I just changed the number you're checking. Like,
I remember seeing there was a commercial. I saw someone it was like a commercial that had a woman who put her counter like on her dog, and like the dog was running, and then it like came back to her. So no cheating, folks. We're trying to get steps. We're getting active this week. So let's make sure that make your step counters and have fun with it. Thank you like so much, Ben. This was really fun. We really appreciate you. Yeah, thanks for showing us how this week's microbit. And hopefully folks at home, I saw some folks, this was great. This is my first time. Thanks so much for this introduction. So thanks, Ben. It was great having you on. We'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Later, mate.
Awesome. Like, I don't know about you, Mr. C, but it was super fun to play with the microbit again. I haven't used it in a while. Online emulator makes it really easy to still code, even if you don't have the microbit.
It's true. And they're a great base for like loads of different making projects. And we see loads of them showing up at coolest projects every year in the physical computing category because they are such a really simple base to get started with. And they've got the inputs and outputs. Really nice little thing to have. Really great little building tool.
Yeah, definitely. If you create an awesome project, like Mr. C just said, with Microbit, Raspberry Pi, Scratch, HTML, or Python, you could enter it into Coolest Projects. Coolest Projects is one of our amazing programs where young people around the world can showcase what they've made with code. Project registration is well underway with loads of new entries coming in every day. Check out coolestprojects.org for more information and share your project with the world.
Yeah, please do. And it was so great to see so many people getting involved this week in the chat. Nice to see Ali shouting out, Foxy getting in there. We've had loads of people, Aicha getting on board and having a really nice conversation amongst yourselves. It's been really, really cool, guys. Thanks for contributing to the discussion. And thanks, Ben, for coming on this evening. I'm really excited to see if any of our cool microbit projects come in from our viewers.
Yeah, me too. Good luck to everyone. Now, that's all we have time for this week, though you can always get in touch with us. Send us an email at dmah@raspberrypi.org to ask us a question or show us something that you've made. And if you're working on a project, share it with us. Tweet a picture to us at raspberry_pi.
Absolutely. And before you go, make sure to like and subscribe so that you're the first to know when we go live, and you'll get updates on all our other great content on our channel as we release it. We're all about supporting young makers around the world with fresh new content every week, so don't miss out. Thank you all for being here this week for the Raspberry Pi Foundation's Digital Making at Home live stream. We're back again same time next week with more digital making. Until then, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next time.
Get those steps.